Yo, what's going on YouTube? I'm Nick, back again with another video. In today's video, I've got a 19 Shadowmoon Burial Grounds gameplay that I want to show with you guys and talk over some of the important kicks and where we're using our cooldowns and all that sort of stuff on Fury Warrior. So let's get into it.
3, 2,
So I did this key about 3 or 4 days ago, maybe 3. And it was in a mostly pug group, but we were on Discord, just so we could communicate some stuff, but the not used to playing with everyone also doesn't help a lot with getting every single kick. But we end up playing this first pack here. There's a couple different routes you can do in this place, with like skipping this first pack, playing this first pack and making up percent elsewhere. But we just decided to play it here. But the heal on this guy ends up going through, which is not ideal. You definitely want to kick the heal on the Bone Mender. Which, there we go, we get it there. But the Bone Boys, they hit the tank very hard. So that's why he's kiting a lot. Had to use another stop. But as you can see, I'm the only one smacking this mob here, which is not ideal. Everyone should be kind of smacking him, so then we don't have to worry about getting as many kicks on him. But why hit one mob when you can hit 2 mobs, right? Okay. Then we decide to play this Void Spawn as well. Which this Void Spawn has this Void Pulse, which hurts a lot, as you can see on Fortified. So ideally you want to like rotate group defensives through each one to just help mitigate some of the damage for the healer. So I'm going out. So I put my defensive there just for the next one to go out. Just so it doesn't do as much damage to me. Let the healer catch up a little bit. We decide to hold our cooldowns here, because there's a 4-pack coming up next. So you can also spell reflect on the Void Pulse to mitigate some of the damage, because it is magic. There we go, we just take care of that guy. But actually, that's right, this group, they did they wanted to shroud this pack in exchange for playing those first packs, which I don't know if that's really worth it in the long run, honestly. But it just makes it a little bit easier. Okay, hit some little spiders. These things aren't really of any challenge. Sometimes you can just drop down and they'll snap down to you, but they've bugged out a couple times for us, so we've just like stopped doing that. We just like fight them in 2 separate lots, just for the consistency's sake. Shadowmoon is like considered the easiest key at the moment, but there is still some points where there is a lot of damage that goes out, that if you don't have like a competent healer or whatnot, you can still just get wrecked. So once again, this is another one of these Bone Menders. So you really want to be slapping him, getting a nice little kick order on them. There we go.
5,
Clearing our Thundering stack with our friend. As the worst thing that happens in these keys is when you get stunned. It's not just getting stunned, you end up taking a lot of damage. And at the end of the video, I will show you guys the build that I was running in here. But it's pretty much just a spear. It's just like the spear build, but I've swapped out one of the tiny damage nodes to be able to get Intimidating Shout, just so I can have an AoE fear. So we're going to pull the boss. So the way we play this boss is that we all stack up somewhat tightly. So then when the little daggers come from the sky, they all land in the same spot, and then we can just move to the side and not have to worry about them being everywhere around the room. But this boss is pretty straightforward. Just dodge the daggers, kill this little ad that comes up when he comes up. Then you want to stand in the little moon circles when the nighttime phase thing happens, the dark eclipse. So he's going to blast this spirit. I'm just holding on to my cooldowns until I can have a solid amount of time to actually use them. So I've thrown out my Ravager to start getting it ramping up. Then I throw my Spear. We get back into our rotation. And our damage is pretty loaded into our cooldown window, which is pretty nice.
Switch.
So we got another ad. I'm going to swap off to this one. I'm going to wait for him to come through the little poopy before we start stunning him and all that. Because we don't want to have to stand in the poopy to hit the mob. There we go, and now we're back on the boss. So I'm pretty sure we're rotating cooldowns here. That was our personals set right there. Warrior is surprisingly tanky for keys this season because we got Rally, we've got our Enraged Regen, we have our Victory Rush every 30 seconds, and that's a huge heal. We have Health Pot, we have Spell Reflect, we have Defensive Stance. Like, there's a lot. Like, if you're dying in keys as a Fury Warrior, you're either not getting healed at all, or you're doing some crazy high key where the pulse damage is just ridiculous and you don't have cooldowns. But, yeah, you shouldn't be dying. You have a lot of options, but you don't want to have to overlap them all at the same time, because that's when you have problems. But you should just be able to send like one piece of your defensive utility, like per sort of ability going out, and you should be fine. So we're back in the little ring. You can all stack in the same ring. I know a lot of people have like been questioning if you can stack in the same ring, and they blame themselves dying to that sort of stuff.
Switch.
Because they think they can't stack, but you certainly can just stack in the same ring. And the boss is down. So this next pack here, the way we play it is, you ideally don't want to kick any of the domination casts. Because all it does is it puts a bit more damage on the tank, but it stops them from recasting their abilities over and over again. So the only one we kick is the far one, just so it brings it closer to the front ones, and we just have an interrupt rotation on it, just to make it easier to keep under control. Because you can't kick 3 mobs just every single cast over and over again. So we just keep the middle one on a kick rotation, and then once it dies, we then pick up the next mob, have a kick rotation on that one, and so forth. It's a little bit harder with Sanguine this week, because you don't want them to heal up. See where we got a double knock, which means now we have to kick them all. Just a little bit of a hassle, but we have lots of stops and stuff, so it's not too bad. So now we're kiting for Sanguine. Throw an AoE Fear there. There we go. Keeping them moving. Perfect. Just going to take care of this pack here. I'm going to clear our storming or thundering. And this next pack here, you want to pull this guy while he's down next to the other one, so then he doesn't activate the 2 other runes. And this one here, you definitely want to get the kicks on these Exhumed Spirits, because this Death Blast will one-shot whoever it hits. I can't remember if I die here to one going off. I think I do, actually. Yeah. So we had a couple kicks up, but people just didn't kick. I didn't have stun or anything either to stop it myself. But that's okay. The healer just night elfed and then started a res on me, so they can keep fighting the mobs while I'm getting rezzed up. But yeah, so the big part about this dungeon, or this part of the dungeon, is you definitely want to be careful about standing on those little tiles, because they just waste time having to kill the individual mobs. So you can hug this little bit of this corner here, so you can avoid hitting the tile. Just go through the center. Boom. Nice and clear. It's pretty funny, the boss like spawns his own little souls, so he spawns like a sanguine puddle right on him, which is pretty funny. So you can't just like charge in and hit him right where he is. You have to kind of like move back a tiny bit. So this boss is a Void Blast, which goes on the tank, which you want to dodge. Then he does like a little teleport with a little degen circle around him. You don't want to stand in that. And then you'll get like a soul split, which will separate you into a different realm where you want to kill your little spirit. And you click that and you come out, you hit the boss again, and then there'll be little swirlies on the ground, which you just gotta dodge, and then it's just rinse and repeat. So a very simple fight. And yeah, so here's the soul. Smacking that. Clicking our body. Being careful not to activate the runes on the edge of the rooms. You get a 40% healing and DPS buff, which is pretty cool. So we're just smacking the boss. These are the swirlies, the Void Devastation. It's a very, very simple mechanic to dodge. Nice and big. Thing here is just like making sure you know who you got to clear with if Thundering's out. But yeah, very, very easy fight. It's just rinse and repeat. Guy's a decent amount of HP on a 19, I guess. Just decide to send our cooldowns again. Okay, we're getting our soul stolen again. Could have saved my cooldowns for when I came out of this soul shredder phase, but there's also another pack coming up after this, so having my cooldowns somewhat close to being back up for this next pack will be nice. So ideally we should have our cooldowns for this pack, then we'll have our cooldowns for the spider pack down the path a little bit. So this little guy always spawns like whenever you pull that pack, so it's just better to go spawn it like individually so you know that someone's got the kick on it. Yep. So now we're just working on this pack, cleaving off the domination mobs, just because they have a lot of HP. And they're a bit harder to move around than the little soul mobs. So we're slamming, we're getting ready. Send our cooldowns here. It's a little risky sending your spear on mobs that are like kind of low HP, because you definitely don't want them to get like linked back into Sanguine. So you gotta be really cautious and sort of know how much damage is left on the mobs, so you don't get them healing a full and you have your tanks raging at you. We got pretty lucky there. It was very perfectly timed. I wouldn't say that's a skill thing by me. That was just very lucky. So now this singular mob, we're just gonna kick him and pull him down the path. It's a bit annoying to just sit there and just fight him when you could just be moving through the dungeon at the same time. We have 2 melee classes, and our Warlock's doing pretty good at casting while moving anyways. So this mob pack has a spider, which has like a big AoE debuff that you don't want to let go out, and then you've got the 2 little bats that you want to kick. They do like a little spit, which hits people and leaves a nasty dot as well. So I'm pretty sure our tank gets the spider, and I get the bat with the X on it. And then the other guys can work on the other mobs. This pack here is really good for you overall if you have your full cooldowns because of all those little skittlings. So we send out cooldowns again.
The elements answer to me.
If that previous boss died a little quicker, it would have lined up my cooldowns a lot better for the last pack and this pack to have them like at the start of the packs. But sometimes you have to send an extra set of CDs on a boss, and you just have to play around it. But that's okay. Still putting in some good damage. Now we head down here. So now I'm kicking my X-Spider again. Go. More little skitterings. They don't really do much. I'm pretty sure they just hit the tank. But yeah, it's just getting the big kicks on these corpse spiders and you're chilling. But they can be single player like kicked. So you only need to allocate one person to each spider and they can get everyone. Or at least a melee can. Which is really good. So now we've got our cooldowns coming up again, which we're not going to send them on these spiders because there is a big worm that's going to be there, and then there's going to be 4 little bats, which this pool is sometimes a little bit spicy, and you got to be careful with Sanguine to not kill the bats too close to the edge because they can actually heal up the spider or the worm. So we're going to go in, we're going to start hitting the worm, and we're just going to wait for the bats to come back through. So I'm just holding my cooldowns, getting ready for the bats. Got our Ravager. Put back cooldowns.
Dodge.
I'm going to get some AoE CCs on these. Our healer gets got. Not too sure what got him.
Dodge.
Can throw up a Spell Reflect just in case a cast goes out and it's going to hit you. It's just safe to have it up.
Dodge.
Marked by lightning.
Yeah, we're just killing the bats. Just cleaving onto
Dodge.
the worm. The worm doesn't really do much except do that little slam on the bridge, which does knock you back if you get hit. So not ideal.
Dodge. Dodge.
Pretty sure the healer Night Elf res the rogue. Which is some good tech if you're a Night Elf healer.
Dodge.
So be careful not to get back in combat with anything.
Dodge.
And now we're just going to kill the second worm.
The elements answer to me.
Which I just sent my Odin's Fury on. Just a little 45-second cooldown. Just put a little bit of extra damage into it.
Dodge.
Didn't want to send the full minute 30 cooldowns.
5. Dodge.
Which, I mean, looking at this timing, I probably could honestly send them, and you just get them a little bit late into the fight. Especially if you're not going to lust this fight, which I don't think we do. I've been trying to skip lusting it just so we can
Dodge.
lust the 2 big ads or the last boss. So yeah, definitely could have sent cooldowns on this. and just get them a tiny bit into this next fight. Now this fight, it's a bit interesting. It's pretty simple, but it just takes a long time because he like goes down and comes back up. So you're going to try and get your range to bait the little puddles closer to the boss.
Wins.
So when the inhales come out, you can stand in them and still get damage uptime. But you have to be careful for volcanics this week, that they will knock you into the air and then you'll just get yeeted straight into him and he'll eat you. If you get eaten, you just gotta pop out the defensive and then jump it back into the thing and get launched back up onto the platform. Also have to be careful on like the second inhales if you go to sit in the first puddle you're in, because they can despawn, and sometimes they'll just like despawn from under your feet and you won't realize and you just get sucked in. Which we said a tank and the warlock got knocked up by the volcanics.
Dodge.
So we're dodging the slams. It's very easy to dodge. Just stand out to it. Unless you're a warlock, apparently. That happens. Sometimes you get hit. But we try our best to not get hit.
Wins.
So we got wins. Just going to try and pull this in. There's no puddle close to us in melee, so just hit those guys until it starts ramping up a bit. And then I think we wanted to kill these because the healer was starting to fall behind a tiny bit, and it just makes it a lot safer if you kill them. So we just killed him, so all we have to think about is the big guy. If you have multi-dotting classes, you can just let them dot them up and they'll just like rot away.
Wins.
But for us, we're just hitting the boss. You feel sad, man, when you can't hit the boss? Gotta throw an axe at him sometimes. Goes down just as I press my trinket. Classic.
Dodge.
But yeah, it's just rinse and repeat this fight. It takes a long time.
Wins.
Gonna inhale. Everyone into the circle. On some of these ones that are like super close to the boss, you have to stand like right on the back edge of them as well.
3, 2, 1.
So, yeah, like this, just eating.
Dodge.
I feel like we all got eaten there. But yeah, just slam a health potion. Just jump our way to the thing.
Dodge. Wins.
More wins. Hopefully this one doesn't despawn on us. It's volcanic. Oh, another person got eaten. Yeah, that's pretty much the only way to make the fight faster, is just to like not get knocked up so you can keep more damage
Dodge.
uptime. It's fine. So holding our cooldowns here because there's a nice juicy pack coming up after the boss. So we got our X kick. Wait for everything to group up. Slam our spear. We did pull some aggro, so we night elfed. Night elf is actually a godsend when you're slamming that big damage off the rip. Oh, missed a kick. Apparently if you fall off that edge there, it actually hurts a lot. But the release spot is right there. that was like the first time I've actually fallen off that little platform there. So I was like, well, I didn't even know this happened. But yeah, it does the same thing as if you fall off on the boss. But yeah, if that heal goes through, it gives you like a minus heal debuff. I think we ended up lusting that last boss. But yeah, you could skip that and lust these two void spawns because these things are pretty scary if you're not super coordinated. So let's put up my spell reflect just to mitigate that first hit. But then we're gonna try and rotate some cooldowns. Finding some safe space to stand on the ground. And just like hard focusing one of them just so you get a lot of damage less. Good thing he's just out of the way. So then he didn't get healed up by the Sanguine. So that is a very unfortunate time. If he's like stuck in a cast while the other one dies on top of him. Just watching our feet very carefully. Okay, the final boss, Ner'zhul. So this boss isn't the most... I mean, he's a bit scary sometimes for the range because they have to like bait that purple circle that just went out. It does pulsing damage to the group if you're close, so you want to move away from it. But it gets prioritized on ranged. And most of the times ranged are kind of squishy clothies, so it's a bit spooky. Then we just gotta kill one of the mobs in the wall just to make ourselves some space to go through.
Dodge.
Look at our cooldowns coming up. So once the boss actually stops somewhere for a little bit of time,
Dodge.
we can then actually just slam him. Get our extra damage for being in the circle.
Dodge.
So it's just dodging big pizza slices.
Dodge.
Pardon me. It's a lot harder for the range to dodge the pizza slices when they're baiting out because it's just a lot more for them to run. But as melee, it's very simple to dodge. Even if it overlaps like these this wall a little bit, you can just like stop doing damage to the wall for a second to make sure you're safe. There's like no need to greed on this fight.
Dodge.
You gotta be very careful of touching the purple, like trailing on those little bone guys, because it leaves a nasty dot on you that does a lot of damage.
Dodge.
Getting some good baits there.
Dodge. Dodge.
The arena first boss fight is very cool. I like it a lot. Just got the wall coming out right on top of us. So we're going to go find a nice little far away one that's not going to overlap one of those runes on the ground.
Dodge.
I'm just going to wait somewhere to slam our
Dodge.
cooldowns again.
Marked by lightning.
Dodge.
Get a nice little clear.
Dodge.
And then just like that, the boss falls over. It's pretty straightforward. All these fights in here are just like rinse and repeat. So it's not too bad at all. But I think I whip up the build. So this was the build that I was running. So I dropped out this this whirlwind node here to get intimidating cry. We have our healing, we got our defenses, our normal spear build. Everything's pretty much the same. And then we pretty sure we showed the damage breakdown of the dungeon as well. We end up on 56.8k DPS overall. Rampage, smashing those crushing blows. You just want to be hitting those as much as possible. Only using your whirlwind to enable your whirlwind cleaves. We got our Ravager, Spear, Execute. Everything's pretty straightforward. But yeah, that's going to be the 19 Shadowmoon Burial Grounds, guys. Please leave a comment below what the highest level keystone have you done of this dungeon. And please like the video as well. And subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.